everybody, I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Roy Cannaday.
And today we're back with Pixix. Pixix. Did you know it's a football term?
I have no clue what this is. You were supposed to explain this at the beginning of this. Joey told me to be in this, and I'm just here because he asked me to be.
That's a nice guy. So Pixix is where we're going to take one popular game, and we're going to pick 6 games that you can branch off. Okay, to explain this whole branching thing, imagine like Loki, the timeline branches. Okay?
Spoiler. No,
it doesn't only branch because of mechanics. It branches because of theme, because of feel. So we got a lot of comments last time. It's like, well, those mechanics aren't similar. It's okay.
Yeah, so we're really trying to help you with games that, like, we know, hey, you like Magic the Gathering, or maybe you like Magic the Gathering in the past, but maybe these are some other games if you like that style of game that you can play. We're not going to give you, like, copies of Magic the Gathering.
No.
You already have that. These are some other games you can try.
Exactly. So we're not going to say Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that. We're going to try to branch it off, whether it could be theme or mechanics or whatever could possibly tie it in and kind of diversify your portfolio. It's a stock term.
Yeah, so I've played a massive amount of Magic the Gathering back in the day, and I kind of moved away from Magic, sold all my cards, and I used all the sales from those cards to buy board games. So hey, these are maybe some of the games you would buy with some of the Magic cards.
Which one's cheaper, Magic the Gathering or board gaming?
Definitely board gaming. I mean, when you're spending like $20 on a single card and you need a play set of 4, and then you're like, dang, that's a lot of money.
That's true.
It's like, how many Liliana the Veils do I have to buy to be able to win in Magic again?
The answer is 6. So, okay, all right, so let's get started with our lists.
So the first game on the list here is Summoner Wars. Summoner Wars is a game where you're going head-to-head against a different summoner, basically trying to knock them out of hit points, very much like Magic the Gathering, you're trying to knock out the other player out of their hit points. But this is a game that's played on a board with tactical movement as you're moving around. You can also do a little bit of deck building in this, but you can play it with just the pre-built decks if you want to. That's how I mostly play the game, just to make it super casual. But in this game, you're going to be playing out your cards, building up your magic as the game goes along, which gives you a little bit of a magic feel with that as well, but you're discarding cards out of your hand at the end of each turn to build up that magic. Also, when you defeat your opponent's like units, you get to turn those into magic as well. So it's got this interesting like back and forth. It feels a little bit like tactical chess movement with dice rolling and being able to play all these cool different events with all sorts of different units with all sorts of cool powers. And I feel like anybody who likes different combos or building up in card play is going to really enjoy this style of game. I know we've both played Summoner Wars together before.
It's good.
So yeah, how do you feel like this would fit with a Magic the Gathering style player?
Really well. I mean, really well as far as theme-wise especially. And the fact that you've got the base game as well as the different expansions that you can kind of, and each faction plays completely different, which I really do like. I think this fits perfectly in there.
And one of the cool things, if you actually are interested in the deck building aspect of this as well, the second edition, the summoners have like different icons on it, which allow you to have different cards based on the other things. So the more cards you get, the more cards you're going to be able to change around with your different decks. And the fact that they use those like different icons, like, okay, well, I have this with this icon. Let me switch these guys in and that guy's in. You can mix and match which common and champion units you have and pick the summoner that has the flavor and the feel that you want for the game. There's decks in this that feel like you're playing blue in Magic. There's decks in this that feel like you're playing black with their pulling things back out of the graveyard. There's decks in here that feel like you're playing white with a bunch of angels and things like that. It just gives you that Magic the Gathering vibe, but is also a tactical like movement game. It feels almost like a miniatures game as you're playing it as well. I just love Summoner Wars.
It really does. I agree. All right, so mine is going to be actually, it's different between pre-made deck and deck building, and this is Star Realms.
Oh yeah.
Star Realms or Hero Realms. And the difference is here, you are building the deck as you play. So you kind of all have the same choices. You're going to be choosing them from a row, so you're building it as you're playing against for your opponent. For me, that adds another level of complexity because you all have the same cards available to you, and you're trying to pull those forward and build your deck through that. And there's still that give and take. It also has the factions. So the factions that you're going to choose to go to from that same row will kind of guide the way you're going to play this game. Because some factions in Star Realms and Hero Realms are a bit more aggressive. Some focus on different aspects of the game.
Right.
So
and there's a lot of combos you can build up in this as well, which will also be very familiar to Magic the Gathering
Exactly.
players. So you're building up the combos, trying to find out which cards are going to combo best with the deck that you're building in real time. I mean, you're not building a deck beforehand, you're building a deck as you play the game.
Right.
And the fact that you're knocking each other's life points out, basically. You're trying to knock them all the way down, which is also a very Magic the Gathering feeling. But it does have that interesting thing of having the different star bases to protect your life points as well. That you're playing out, like, oh, let me take that thing out, like take this thing out. There's a lot of interesting play in Star Realms.
I enjoy it too. And then also you get that base game, and then you have the different packs. You can get usually like $5 or so for not booster packs, but the different things like colonies and things to add in there. So there's a lot of variability you can add later to that. And that is Star Realms if you like the space, or Hero Realms if you like the dungeon type of game.
There you go. So the next one here is Dominion. We just talked about deck building game. This is the OG deck building game. In this game, it's a little bit more different, but you're going to be building up your deck as you go along. You're trying to recruit different like resources to get gold or different things that let you have action cards. The main thing about this is there's lots of combos in the game as you're going along. This is also made by a guy that was a Magic the Gathering Pro Tour player, Donald X. Vaccarino. So it has that like Magic legacy in there with it as well. But it's just one of those games that you get to have that feeling of building a deck as the game goes along. Deck building is a very different thing than a game where you build the deck outside of the game. But deck building, you get to build those decks as the game goes along. And it's just really cool to figure out, as you have those 10 cards laid out on the table, which cards are going to build the best combo for you to be able to ramp up and best your opponents and get those like lands and provinces to get points for yourself before your opponent does.
It's funny you mention this because Dominion is one of those, every time I think it's dated, I end up playing it and I'm like, wow, it still holds up.
It's just so simple and so solid.
Really good. And you know, like Star Realms was also made by Magic the Gathering players before, you know, and Dominion too, but that's just, it has that feel and that just variability with all the different things you can add to it.
Yeah, I just love the combos, and there's so many expansions for Dominion. So it can literally be as deep as you want it to be. But honestly, if you're just trying to look for something casually to play, if you enjoy Magic, and you want to get just the base set of Dominion, it's just a fun thing to play. In between building your regular Magic decks, you can build some Dominion decks.
I agree. All right, so now mine actually is Unmatched. Unmatched, as I like to call it, it's pretty much the mixture between Magic the Gathering and chess. You know, so you're kind of moving around. You still have card draws. They're going to tell what you can do and dictate your turn. But Unmatched is again one of those that has so many different sets out there, and it kind of gives. I like minis as well. You know, I like that battling, but this adds the minis in there, and I really like the asymmetric feel of every single player that you can go at it, and the matches are short.
Right.
There is that new cooperative one, the Tales to a Maze.
Yes.
But really, at its root, Unmatched will always be competitive.
Head-to-head.
Yeah, and head-to-head is a good, because I know there's like that four-person whatever, but it really is, it's a head-to-head match is what Unmatched is. And it's really fun to run those back. And the fact that you have those pre-built decks for each character, so you can really see who the better player is. You know? It's like, if I can't beat you with T-Rex, and you can beat me, come on, man. You know who the better player is. There's no... I mean, I know that comes down to card draw sometimes like that, too. But it's great.
You got to try to utilize your special abilities. And the fact that each deck plays a little bit differently. Some decks are going to help you draw more cards. Some decks are going to try to help do a whole lot of different things. Yeah. Some things are just about maneuvering on the board. You can get so much flavor and theme from each of all the different characters. And the fact that you're mixing and matching, they have Marvel stuff for a match.
Right.
They have Jurassic Park stuff for a match. They have all of these like fictional characters from like literature in a match. It's cool. They have Dracula you can go up against, and King Arthur and Medusa. There's so many. They even had Bruce Lee set. You know, there's so many ridiculous stuff in a match that you can face off against each other. And the card play is just, it's just something that, like, hand management is a huge part of Magic, and figure out how to maneuver and keep your hand full, but then also it has this bluffing element of like trying to trick your opponent, which I think Magic the Gathering players will really enjoy, especially when you're trying to counterspell and hold things back and different things like that. You can get a little bit of feel of that, of like, okay, I have a defense card. I have a really good attack card right now, or like, I'm going to use the weak attack card first, and then I'm going to do the heavy attack card. Or maybe do the heavy attack card first, because, you know, there's all these little mind games you can play in Unmatched and trying to outsmart and best your opponent. It's one of my favorite games ever, Unmatched. I
agree, and it's one of those, when you explain to somebody that you can play anyone fictional, like you said, fictional or real, you can do Houdini versus Daredevil. Yeah. You know, and you just keep going at the end. Like you mentioned before, every character plays differently. Like, because Bigfoot likes to run. Right. You know, and then other ones like to go, King Arthur will come right at you. Every single time you play the game, you have to look at your character and decide what your strategy is going to be. Yeah. So I really like the strategy that goes into this. If you like the strategy between things like Magic the Gathering, check out Unmatched.
Yeah, for sure. The next one here is actually going to be a little bit of a diversion because this is the first game that we're saying that is actually cooperative, and this is Marvel Champions. So this is a game that has deck building in it, but also you're working together to take out villains. You're playing with all sorts of different decks of Marvel characters. You get to choose a Marvel character to bring to the battle. You're going to be facing off against things like Rhino or against Magneto, or depending on the box set you have, you can play against all sorts of different guys. Ultron, all sorts of different villains that you're facing off against, but you're playing your favorite combo characters, but also the hand play and card management in this and the combos together. Once again, most of these games are going to have great combos in it. That is in Marvel Champions is just great. And I just feel like anybody that enjoys like building out their tableau of different cards and trying to combo that stuff together is just really going to enjoy this. And you can do it cooperatively. You're actually working together to knock out the villain's hit points in this game.
Yeah, and it's really good. And again, I have not gotten in the deck build as much as you have. You know, I kind of take the decks they recommend for each character. But you can dive as deep as you want to building your decks. And you have.
I have friends that basically what they do is every game they start up, they set up the villain, or they say, this is the villain we're playing, and then they build the decks right before, and they work together to build their decks. Like, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take aggression, okay, you take protection, you take justice, and they build their decks right beforehand, and then they play against it. They all figure out which characters they're going to do, which I feel like will make you have to play on like a higher difficulty on the bad guy. This game also scales really well as far as the bad guy. You can also play this game solo. So if you're a person that enjoys Magic the Gathering, but you don't always necessarily have someone to play against, you can get Marvel Champions. You can play a bunch of solo games of Marvel Champions against the villain, and you're still getting that deck building experience, getting that experience of building up the different combos, and getting the experience of knocking your opponent's life points all the way down to 0 to win the game. But yeah, that is Marvel
And that's
Champions.
neat because it's like you're assembling a team when you put together those decks.
Yeah, for sure.
Really interesting. All right, so my final one is actually Veil of Eternity. Veil of Eternity is kind of like a short tableau builder, and you're building your deck, your army there. But I like the best part about this for me. I love the currency aspect in this because you've got 4 stones that you can spend,
Right.
And those 4 stones are of different values, but you never get change.
Right.
So you have got to work around those 4 stones while building that. And it also has a snake draft, which I love the snake draft, which a snake draft, if you don't know, you go around once and you come right back around.
Yeah, this is especially good if you're into Magic the Gathering and into drafting because it gives you that feel of everybody has these cards that they're kind of available to get. You have to choose, I'm going to take this card because it's really good for my engine that I'm building up.
Right.
This has a lot of combos in it with all the different engine stuff. But then also it's like, well, maybe I'll take this card and I'll get rid of it for the money because that card's really good for that guy.
That is massive.
So you can hate draft a little bit in this game as well. But the engines and the combos you can build up with all the different characters and how that all kind of goes back to back off of each other is so cool. And I mean, there's a bit of take that in this. If you enjoy the parts of Magic where you're like, and I burn that character, and I kill that thing off, Veil of Eternity definitely has that.
It really is. That's probably the newest game on this list, too.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is really fun. I was surprised how much I really enjoyed this when I first played it.
Yeah, I think Veil of Eternity is a game that's going to be really easy for people to get to the table and play over and over again. And then just that engine building part is so satisfying of being like, okay, I triggered this character works with this character, and this thing does that, and that does that. If you love combo building in games, this is a great one.
I agree. Check it out. So those are 6 games. If you like Magic the Gathering, check those out. And most of them are cheaper, so your wallet will thank you too.
Well, there you go.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'm Joey Evans.
I'm Roy Cannaday.
See you later. Bye.